Hello and welcome to this week's YouTube video episode on how to meditate correctly, especially for women. Now, if you haven't watched last week's video, please go ahead and check it out. It's called How Women Should Meditate Part 1. And in that video, I go over the masculine and feminine energy, which is really important for you to understand, especially if you're a woman in leadership wanting to have more from life. So, my friend, the reason why you need to learn how to meditate correctly is because there is a big misunderstanding, firstly, on how to meditate and what meditation is. And secondly, if you're one of those people that are really learning oriented, you value growth from learning and developing, then you also value that whether you show up fully or not in life, at work, for your business and your clients, and most importantly for yourself and your relationships. Showing up means that you are 100% present, you're making critical decisions on the spot, you're able to be discerning of what is right for you and what is not. And you're able to actually develop that strength, that inner strength that can give you the power to say yes or no to people, situations, and also say no more to things that don't serve you anymore, right? So why we must meditate is because there is a dire need for us to reclaim our ability to show up fully, be it physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and whenever the reason arises, really. Because as long as we're alive, we're going to have to show up in relationships, at the workplace, and any stage of our life. There'll be opportunities for us to show up with who we are being. And one of those things that I've noticed in my clients is that one of the biggest reasons women come to me for coaching is for this, to be able to learn how to show up fully. Well, firstly, we have to show up for ourselves, don't we? And with that in mind, we're going to start off with today's video about how to meditate correctly. Now, did you start your practice from last week's video? I just wanted to ask you, and if you have, please put it in the comments below and let us know so that the community can get inspired by you. Fast action taking is exactly the road to success. And remember, it doesn't have to be more than 5 minutes a day, and any time of the day that suits you. Usually the first thing in the morning or the last thing in the evening is the best time, optimal time, because it sort of sets you up for the next activity really well, and then the effect lasts longer. Now, today's topic is how to meditate correctly for women. It's coming from that video of that point about, really awakening the witness within. Now, when we talk about the witness is actually awakened through several types of practices, where I shared with you last week. One of the practices was to sit with yourself, don't move, don't react, just be present to yourself for 5 minutes. Now, this is not easy for most of us. And thinking back to my journey of meditation, well, back in the day when I was starting out, I put myself through a 10-day Vipassana meditation retreat in Kolkata of India. That was an amazing experience because, we started off with 50 people in that batch, and we ended up with probably around 25, 30 people sticking around. And one by one, we saw people leave because it was unbearable for them to actually sit in silence every day. And we weren't allowed to make eye contact or say a word. And we were under strict regulation of, eating on time and doing nothing but the Vipassana style of meditating, which is basically sitting still and sitting on the floor or chair. Some people that had knee problems sat on a chair, but you have to sit upright and do your practice. Thinking back to that, my biggest takeaway was that it's not easy. It's not easy to sit still and do nothing, but there is a technique to it which I want to share about today with you. Now, looking back at my client experiences, the motivation behind me creating this video is, as if you can't look up what meditation is online or, ask your teacher. But I'll tell you what, they're not telling you, or maybe the questions we ask are not giving us that answer. So meditation is actually a byproduct or a result of the actions we do. So hear that again. Meditation is the result of cultivating the witness. It's not a verb. It's not an action. Meditation is not an action, meaning meditation is not the practice. In fact, in the yogic system, they are called dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, right? These three are separate practices to develop. Dharana is focus. So there are different practices to develop focus. We hold our focus on one thing at a time. Second, dhyana, which is concentration. We can do this through mantra meditation. We can do this through singing. We can do this through anything that we develop concentration through. And then the last one is unbiased relaxation and awareness. So samadhi means that, when you just surrender, you're just spontaneously allowing your mind to be completely one with the object of your focus. Like, think back to the time you had your first kiss. You weren't thinking of anything else other than just being immersed in that experience, were you not? Well, that's exactly what samadhi is like. Feeling it, experiencing it, not thinking, just going with it. It's being in the flow. It's not, don't confuse this with being in the flow state and all of those, new age statements. This is really no thought, but experience, and experiencing the actual object of focus, like going to watch a sunrise or sunset. You're immersed in the experience. You have cognition, you have recognition, and you also are having the experience, but your mind is spontaneously there, being present. You're not pushing it, you're not reminding it, you're not saying, hey, stay focused, right? So that is what samadhi, the last stage, is through the development of dharana, dhyana, and then you land and you spontaneously experience that surrender state. And in yoga physical practice, we also experience this when we're about to get to the middle of our shavasana, right? Shavasana is a corpse pose when we lie down to relax after the movement. And we notice that, suddenly we're so relaxed that we're in the actual body, and we've just lost track of time, a sense of our location. We're really just immersed in that experience of relaxing. Right, and it really does set us up for a relaxed way of being in body, mind, and emotion, does it not? So that is what actually creates what we call the meditative mind. And what the meditative mind can do, it's like a lake with no ripples in it. That's the meditative mind. And within that lake, you'll be able to see everything down to the bottom of the lake if it had no ripples in it. But in the yogic system, it understands and helps us learn that the ripples on the bed of the lake are those thoughts, are those compulsions, are those emotions, and our reactions to them. Cool. So this is the biggest misunderstanding in our age and in our probably the communities and just the language that's around it, where we are understanding meditation to be like a thing we do, like we go and do yoga, like we go and do stretching. We're not there to do meditation. We are trying to cultivate a meditative mind. And maybe it's the language, maybe it's the English language that's being used this way. So let's get clear of one thing, what meditation is and is not. Meditation is a byproduct of the focus and concentration and the spontaneous surrender of your mental focus into being in the experience. And this in itself gives us the ability to have unbiased awareness of what is happening. So when you're in the experience of the sunrise, sunset, whatever the glorious experience you're having, you've got this surrender state to you and your being, and you're able to witness everything without judging or reacting because you're so relaxed, and you're also quite aware and awake, and there's an unbiasedness to the quality of your thought. So similarly, we are developing the witness through our concentration practice and the focus practice, which takes you to sit down. You sit down for 5 minutes and you're able to cultivate that practice of non-reaction through an intention. You're going to start with an intention of not judging the experience you're having. That means you're not supposed to talk to the experience and say, oh, this is wonderful, this is great, or that's horrible, this is not my style, or whatever that is, that dialogue that comes up. You're not to have a conversation with it. Rather, I like to think of it as a camera looking at the subject or the scenario without any feedback. That will take practice. Remember, when you first bring a child to sit down to focus and eat, does the child comply straight away? No. Because you have to train the child. You have to remind them over and over, hang on, don't go away, sit down until you finish it, and then you can get up. And this is the same thing we need to do with ourselves. And every time we tell ourselves to sit down, every time it will just get better and better and easier with practice. And the easier it will get through the practice of helping yourself to train yourself to sit, the easier it will get with your physical. Maybe you'll have physical pain in the beginning. Oh my God, thinking back to my 10-day Vipassana retreat, my knees felt like they were going to break at first. And all of a sudden by day 3, day 4, we didn't feel anything, it was gone, because the mind itself needs training and acclimatizing. Coming back to what changes you'll experience through regular sitting, you'll start to release those physical disturbances and the resistance that will come up at the beginning. But you're going to train yourself like you train a child lovingly to sit with yourself. You have to have the intention to be non-judging. You don't judge the child because you understand that the child doesn't know how to focus and eat by themselves at first. So you're going to be understanding, and that is an attitude you must have. So then, next thing is you're going to help yourself to see that, hey, there's no point in fighting this experience. And so then you will start to see yourself give up the resistance naturally that comes from the mind itself. And then the last part will just be an unfolding of the rest, which is that the spontaneity of relaxation, of the effort you've been putting in. It's just going to happen spontaneously. As soon as you sit down, you're just going to get into it. And that's the spontaneity we're looking for, because that's going to train you to be an amazing person who can hold space for themselves, amazing person who can show up for themselves, especially when it gets really uncomfortable, in uncomfortable situations. Those are the true measures of how we are showing up, isn't it? So that's going to change, and you're going to start to be able to use your mind for the best decisions to make for your business, for your work, for your life, right? So there are 3 steps to actually make it happen for yourself in this journey of practicing to cultivate a meditative mind for you. Remember, the witness is not yet awakened in most of us because most of us haven't really set this intention before. Now, you might say, look, I can look at myself and I can say where I can feel my sensations. I can see where I can see my thoughts. I can see what I'm feeling. I've got my witness down pat. But like I said, it's like, overnight our teeth get plaque on them. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but just like how we develop plaque on our teeth overnight, the same thing happens with the mind. The same thing happens with the clutter that accumulates with the mind, with our daily experiences through our sensory perspective, through our experiences that we're having, especially with the conditioning we have. We've got a lot of processes going through us that we need to declutter. Right? So this practice will need to become a lifelong practice. So may as well start to have that friendliness toward ourselves and go, you know what? Even though I've been practicing for the last decade of what I've called meditation and cultivating the witness, I could learn something from this. I could actually take it as it's not work. It's actually me cleaning my mind, me being easily spending some time with myself with ease, because I want to cultivate unbiased awareness toward my experiences that are happening within my body. Sound like a deal? So let's go to the steps. And so the steps to it's a 3-step process. Time, space, and breath. So I'm just gonna, for the sake of this exercise, for the sake of our commitment toward our meditative mind, we're gonna just say every day we make a commitment to sit for 5 minutes. And within this, for this 5 minutes for yourself, I would love you to consider these 3 steps to follow every single time. So when it comes to time, stick to the 5 minutes consistently for a period of time until you spontaneously feel like, hey, this is quite easy. I can increase the timing. So just remember that. I know many people, they challenge themselves to go like what I did, 10 days all in one go. Well, one of my teachers, he did 1 month in Sri Lanka, right? And I think that's quite drying. It's quite drying and it's very yang style of approach. Whereas, remember what I just shared earlier, it's an attitude of gratitude we must have about, this tool that we've got to our disposal to actually see more closely within ourselves. And that is the cultivation of the witness or the observer, some may call. So time, let it be a spontaneous, incremental journey for you. So start with 5 minutes and stay with it for as long as you need to. There is no badge of honor for how much longer somebody is sitting there and meditating, right? Honestly, there isn't, because you're always going to have to learn to work with your timing. So unfortunately, as much as I'd love to say that, hey, that person's advanced and that person's not, no, there's no such thing, because what we're trying to do here is we're trying to train ourselves to adapt to the life that we have, the commitments that we have, and everything else included, and following the principal success of 1% daily, which is compounding daily. We're going to trust that, and we're going to commit to 1%, which is 5 minutes a day. Does that sound like a deal? Does that sound doable for you? Because anything less than that, if that is your story right now, that you're going to start lower than 5 minutes, go for it, but be very high quality with it, right? You must make sure that you give yourself that time, but usually 5 minutes is doable for most of us. Okay, if it's important for you, factor it into your routine. So, my friend, time is make it a spontaneous, make a commitment to actually feeling the desire coming from within you to be able to sit there for longer. And that's my guidance for you there. Space. When you have a dedicated space in your home, in your office, in any space that you might be seeing yourself to spend this time with yourself, maybe out in nature, whatever space you choose, make it a sacred space. So with space, my only request is make it a sacred space, because you need to sit upright in an undisturbed environment. So within that space, think about what sort of distractions might come to that space, and really try to do a bit of risk management there, and really try to make it conducive for you to have this time that you've dedicated to nurturing your witness. So this word sacred, the sacredness will come from where you are undisturbed. So your attention is so pure that you will make it conducive for you to meet with your spirit. So because this act of dropping away all of these distractions will bring you closer and closer and closer toward your true self. Right? And you don't want to miss out on those glimpses of your true self. So I highly recommend you create a space for wherever you try to meditate, make sure it's got the capacity to be a sacred space. And you must sit up. Do not do this practice while lying down. You must sit up and support your back if you can't sit up straight, right, with your legs crossed. And you can also use a chair if that is more suitable for you. So don't put yourself under unnecessary discomfort or uncomfortable situations. Just choose a posture that is seated up on a chair, on the floor, on cushions, whatever you need. Make sure you are comfortable and the space is sacred, which is you've got no distractions. You will communicate to the people that you share space with that this is my time, this is where I'll be not speaking, and please don't come and disturb me. You know, maybe put the door hanger on your door for them to not disturb you as well, and during those times. And make it a part of your boundary, and like this is a non-negotiable for you. And if suppose you've decided to meditate or do this exercise during the time of day when you are likely to get phone calls, then perhaps you'd want to choose a time that you won't get phone calls or any kind of disturbances. So you might have to think more flexibly to what is the time you are able to have sacred space from the world around you. I leave that to you in your capable hands. So I just wanted to catch myself there as well. I just wanted to mention, see how language, the English language also is so, you know, it uses the word meditate as a verb, because I tend to use it too. Have you meditated or do you meditate? You know, we use it in our language in such a way that it almost sounds like the action, but it actually is the end result. So breath, your breath is your vehicle. Okay, so your breath is your vehicle. What that means is that when your aim is to become non-reactive, the first point of reference will be your maybe physical sensation. And as soon as your physical sensations give you some sort of, you know, feedback, you'll probably feel it in your breath. And so what we want to do is, as a starting point for practicing non-judgment, is manage your breath. And by that, all I mean is keep it slow. Not deep, not rhythmic, slow. Whenever you sense that you're feeling uncomfortable about a situation, instead of going towards, well, shit, this is getting really uncomfortable. I really don't want to talk about it. I really don't want to think about it. Whatever that's happening in that time, the first point of reference that I want you to go to is, let's breathe slowly. Because I'm going to sit here, I'm going to observe, I'm going to awaken my witness. I am the witness. So when your breath is slow, it is easier for you to decide to be in the witness, decide to be the observer. Sounds easy enough, but only practice will tell. So to wrap it up, like we said, there are 3 aspects to this practice, starting with 5 minutes. Choose your time of day at any time, which you will maintain for a long period of time. So maybe try it out for 14 days, 5 minutes. And then let it come to you spontaneously for the desire to tell you, hey, I might be able to increase this now. I think I can increase it. But I don't want you to come from a place with like, can I increase it? Can I increase it? Because that's the ego trying to divert your attention from the act itself. Because my friend, what I'll tell you is, the truth is, as you get more proficient anyway, you won't need this practice as often. This is the fundamental practice that I teach in my Empowered You program, which is to develop the witness within, and then we have the latter practices to then cultivate better focus, better concentration, and better spontaneity toward focused activities, right? That we want to merge ourselves with. So we want to show up for our business. We want to show up for our, whatever the goals are, right? Those then become the advanced practices of integrating our meditative mind toward the life's endeavors. And that's what I teach as a whole program. And I can't share that all with you in one video, but if I was to give you a starting point, this would be it. And as you get proficient, right, and you won't need to sit there for days on end, doing this practice, you'll just do it for a few minutes. Slow your breathing down. That will become your starting point next. Slow your breathing down and then direct your mind to the object of your focus and feel it and in an unforced manner. And that is a skill and a level that you'll hit through consistent practice. So my last giveaway and my last piece of advice is choose consistency over intensity. So when you go to measuring your practice, I would like you to be conscious that it's only time to increase time when you feel a spontaneous need. I'd like you to offer yourself a sacred space, not a space where you will be disturbed or you will feel uncomfortable. Yes, so please make sure you offer that to yourself because you are worthy. And last is just slow breathing as an act of non-judgment and non-reaction. And ultimately, it's all about consistency rather than intensity. So, did you get value out of this? And do you meditate? There's that word again. Do you actually have a practice that helps you cultivate a meditative mind? Because in the system of evolution, well, even development of mental focus, concentration, and the spontaneous, effortless way of directing our mind to be able to achieve greater things in life comes from this whole principle of consistency, consistent effort without attachment. Because as soon as we've said, well, Supriya said, if I do this, then that's how it will work. Unfortunately, that's again going back to the mind chatter, who's going to what's going to actually drive you towards the intensity again. So there are more principles that I would love to share with you in future videos, but for now, what I wanted to just quickly remind you about is that you are worthy of this time. It's only 5 minutes, and if you can sit with yourself with all the knowledge that I've shared with you and try it with a fresh set of eyes, with this fresh attitude that you are training yourself like you would train a child, and understand your needs through this time that you give to yourself. It's just 5 minutes and you are worthy. So my darling, please let me know how you found this video in the comments below. And for those of you that commented in my earlier videos, thank you so much for your encouragement and your resonance and your message of gratitude. It means a lot. It's actually encouraging others to also tune in and feel supported on their journey. So thank you so much for commenting, liking, sharing, because this is a movement. This is actually a cause that we're all fulfilling, because like I mentioned, we're all trying to come back to the essence of our being, which is a balanced being. A balanced being has the masculine and feminine working together in harmony. And balance is not a state that we get stuck at, but we do need the tools and skills to navigate the changing and ever-changing nature of our existence. And so balance can become a sort of a block on our road if we think of it as a stagnant point. We're actually not looking at it as a destination. Rather, we just want to know that, yeah, life is like this, and we're going to learn how to drive through this, right? And for us to be able to do that, like a master, we do need to cultivate a mindful mind and a meditative mind, which can discern, which can show up, which we can use toward our own goals in an intentional way. So thank you so much for coming this week and watching this video. I really appreciate your support. Please like, share, subscribe, and please leave a comment below and let us know how you went. And if you're going to start your practice, comment below and let us know when you're going to start it and how it's going for you. Thank you. Have a good week. Until next video, take care. Lots of love.